Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you across the world. Today, we launch the WISTA International Trade Committee. And you may wonder why the launch? But I can tell you that by our name, WISTA is not just for shipping or maritime transport, but it is trade as well. As far back as 1974, when WISTA was established, it had women doing trade and bulk shipping, commodities. And so we have been there since, even before the trend on women in trade, gender equality and women empowerment. Because the vision of WISTA has been to promote diversity in the maritime, trading and logistics sectors. Because we have also believed that empowering women to lead their unique perspective goes a long way in giving them the empowerment that they need to do their businesses. International trade or regional or sub-regional agreements and trade policies have for a long time been gender neutral. In fact, as far as I can tell, it may have been in 2017 with the WTO Buenos Aires Declaration on Women and Trade that we see that today there's a lot of focus on gender equality and women empowerment. I am happy to note that not only do we focus on the trade policies, but even in the leadership, we are seeing a lot of changes. And we can say that today we have a woman, the first Secretary General of the WTO, as a woman from Nigeria, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala of Nigeria. We also have, just recently in September, Ms. Rebecca Greenspan from Costa Rica taking over the leadership of UNCTAD. And then I'm also aware that not too long ago, last year, we had Ms. Pamela Cook Hamilton of Jamaica as the head of the International Trade Center. I think, ladies, we are getting somewhere gradually. Before it was gender neutral, but now we can see women. We can see policies focused on women. And that is why today we believe that even though you may think that WISTA has been shipping all along, we are launching this trade committee so that all and sundry will be aware that we are trade and logistics as well. Looking at all these developments, what better time for WISTA International to launch its trade committee, to declare our willingness to cooperate and collaborate with all organizations for the ultimate realization of gender equality and women empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to call upon Paula Paston Carvalho from WISTA Chile and chair of the WISTA Trade Committee to tell us all about why the Trade Committee. But first of all, let me just say a few things about Paula, because she has been very much interested and as if trade facilitation brings SMEs. So, Paula, let me hand over to you to welcome everybody and to tell us the purpose of this trade committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to present short presentation. Can you see the presentation?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No?
No.
Let me try again. So sorry, not. I don't know what happened. Now, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, now it's visible.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Many thanks for joining us. We are glad you are here with us today. The focus of our initiative will be education for SMEs and trade facilitation. But this time, I'm not going to talk about this. Maybe do you know him, Simon Sinek and his Golden Circle? Let me start with why we are here. And I'm going to tell you a story. In 2018, 2019, a group of professionals were invited by IDB, International Development Bank, Procomex Institute from Brazil, CNI, and SOFOFA. The idea was to create a map, import and export operation for some Latin American countries. Can you see this picture? We were maybe 24 or 30 specialists coming from different points of the supply chain, people with a lot of experience and know-how in our industry. But guess what? There was sometimes that we were not able to respond to a specific question of the operation. Maybe you remember a blockchain study done by Maersk Line a couple of years ago. They tracked a reefer container from Mombasa, Kenya, to the port of Rotterdam, one reefer container. And the result of this research was more than 200 interactions across 30 different entities. Please forget about international trade and close your eyes and think in that SME that today need to work with the tax administration office and their accountant. Maybe it's a big issue for them, but if you think in international trade, more than 30 entities. Maybe you don't know who we are. WISTA International, it's a female organization coming from shipping, logistics, and international trade. We are around 4,000 members in 54 countries since 1974. We are very young. Something that I really love of our organization, it's the know-how of our members coming from every piece in the entire end-to-end chain. Ports, shipping lines, academy, freight forwarders, NBOCCs, authorities, insurance, auxiliary service, bunkering, advisors, public and private sector. We are the women who move the world. And we believe that collaboration will be the key for the future. I would like to thank the effort of this group of women who believes in this project. Let me introduce our trade committee team. Many thanks to all of you, and I hope we can grow and build our end-to-end chain in our 54 countries, and why not beyond. Well, this is the power of collaboration. Special thanks for my Chilean colleagues too. Well, I'm going to bring you a closer example why collaboration is so important. Have you heard something about COVID-19? Well, Can you imagine if every country will have to develop their own vaccination? Maybe we will still waiting for. We are convinced that knowledge increases when it is shared. And by sharing our know-how, conscious collaboration is born. And when SMEs learn, countries grow. Well, this is an invitation to work together, to find a way to create synergies with these amazing women and their experience into the end-to-end chain. Why? Because no one knows more than everyone else. Please enjoy our webinar, and I hope this will be just the kickoff of a future collaboration. Many thanks. I don't know how can.
Thank you,
this.
Paula. Thank you very much. This is very important, blockchain. Wow. it's so good. I will now call upon Miss Despina Panayotou Theodosu, who is the president of WISTA International and is also the co-CEO of Toto Theo Maritime, a leading global maritime service provider, specializing in innovative, efficient, and functional solutions in the fields of satellite communications, digitalization, automation, and navigation systems. As from August 2021, she is the chairperson of the Electricity Authority of Cyprus. She has been instrumental in WISTA's success in receiving consultative status with the International Maritime Organization in 2018. She is a board member of the Cyprus Shipping Chamber, the Cyprus Employers and Industrialists Federation, the Limassol Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She sits on the board of governors of the Cyprus Maritime Academy and the Strategic Committee of Crans Montana, a club of ports. In July 2020, she was elected as a member of the General Committee of the Association of SA and Limited Companies in Greece, and as head of its Shipping Sector Committee. Leading international shipping publication, Lloyd's List, selected Despina as one of the top 100 most influential people in shipping in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Wow. In 2019, she was also named as the International Personality of the Year at the Lloyd's List Greek Shipping Awards. She holds degrees from the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, the Copenhagen Business School, and the University of Oxford. We have for you to give us a keynote address, Ms. Despina Panayotou Theodosu. Your turn, Despina. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Na. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure on behalf of WISTA International to invite you to the Trade Committee launch today. We're here to talk about international trade and how WISTA, a growing and influential organization, can play a meaningful role in the critical but challenging world of trade negotiations. Shipping is the servant of trade, and WISTA International is an association with a role to play in the future of shipping and therefore how shipping responds to trade dynamics. This is why we're here to celebrate the launch of the WISTA International Trade Committee, yet another one of the growing number of expert committees we have in WISTA, set to play an influential and positive role in our industries. We are an organization of gifted, intelligent, and influential industry professionals We have amongst us tremendous amount of knowledge, capabilities, and intellectual firepower. Our committees in WISTA are here to be able to not only demonstrate through engagement that our organization has a voice, but also that this is a collaborative voice aimed at driving our industry forward in an inclusive, sustainability-focused way. To help us achieve this, it is a pleasure that we established the WISTA International Trade Committee. This shows how our association is growing and strengthening its role in the broader sector. The idea of this committee arose in 2019 when it became clear the significant resources we have here within our organization. The Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, of course, refers directly to the fact that our members, through the numerous national associations, are already key players in their countries, regions, and internationally in trade facilitation and the crucial business of trade around the world. For many of you, it is your day-to-day working lives, of course. The importance of international trade has been recognized for many years, from the early days with the likes of the 18th century British economists Adam Smith and David Ricardo pointing to its growing influence, and then modern economists pointing to the importance of trade in the globalization of services and commodities. And so now to us. As an industry and as individuals, within the sectors that make up maritime and shipping, we all have a responsibility to ensure that global trade facilitation is done with the sets of morals and ethics befitting a connected, sustainable, modern society. This is why WISTA, which is a crucial enabler of sustainable growth in the shipping and trade industries, can engage with other organizations, such as UN agencies, for example, to ensure that all those impacted by trade decisions are heard. Our new committee would consider the role of women in trade and logistics and help WISTA highlight the role women play in facilitation. But we have another responsibility here too. Global trade has to be truly equitable. As an organization with many national associations in developing and developed countries, WISTA has an opportunity to join the international trade facilitation discussion table in a truly equitable position, having different voices under our roof. This helps set us apart. Not only is this committee the voice of women in global trade, but the voice of women across the developing and the developed world, working to find commonality for a sustainable future. So, as I said, the WISTA International Trade Committee would be able to tap into the expertise and professional experience of WISTA members to give voice and expert opinion on such issues as supply chain disruption, trade agreements, and their impact on trade flows and shipping, COVID-19 impacts, the impact of embargoes and international disagreement, how developing country growth impacts trade flows, even climate change. As I mentioned, trade has a local element as well as an international aspect. This is why at WISTA, we feel that we can add value. We have our national organizations and our international footprint. So we will seek to have partnerships with international organizations, but also ensure that through our growing and influential network of national WISTAs, we can add value on a regional and national level. The voice of our members in the form of a solid collective women's voice is coming to the table. And it is a pleasure we now launch the committee with the exceptional leadership of our EXCO member Naden Suarriete and Paula Pacen Carvalho from WISTA Chile as the committee chair, and a list of venerable WISTA members from around the world ready to work hard and play an influential role in moving global trade forward through the WISTA prism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Despina, for this. Now we wait on you to declare the committee launch so that we can enter into our second session for the forum.
I declare the committee launch and I wish the best of success to everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. On this note, as we thank Despina and Paula for their words to us, we shall begin our forum discussing trade facilitation, SMEs, gender, environment, social, and governance as a form of sustainability. I will therefore take the first panel, which is made up of Rhoda Janitor, WISTA Ghana, Ms. Jamita Chiwundi Jan from the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and Ms. Crystal Anuquin. Before I start, let me take this time to introduce the three of them who will be the first panel. Ms. Rhoda Janitor is an experienced trade facilitation officer with 10 years demonstrated history of working in the maritime industry. Skilled in negotiation, arbitration, trade facilitation, maritime imports, she has a strong professional support with masters in maritime affairs, focused in shipping management and logistics from the World Maritime University, Sweden, Malmö. She is a member of the Chartered Institute of Shipbrokers, London, a member of the Ghana National Trade Facilitation Committee, and a member of the WISTA International Trade Committee. She currently works with the Ghana Shippers Authority as a Senior Shipper Services and Trade Facilitation Officer. I will introduce a second person in this panel, Ms. Jamita Chiwundi Jan, who is the head of Customs Cooperation, Trade Facilitation and Transit, as well as a senior advisor to the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. Before joining the African Continental Free Trade Secretariat, she was the Assistant Chief Trade Negotiator and head of the AFTA ECOWAS Department at the Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations. In her capacity as head of this unit, she was the alternate Chief Trade Negotiator for Nigeria during the Phase 1 negotiations of the AFTA agreement. Prior to her deployment to the Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations, Ms. Jan was a commercial officer at the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in Nigeria. From 2006 to 2016, where she served in the task force for trade facilitation and eventually became the National Committee on Trade Facilitation after Nigeria ratified the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement. Ms. Jan proceeded to Geneva in 2012 for an internship at the World Trade Organization and was a part of the project implementation unit of the World Bank Growth and Employment Project from 2014 to 2016. Ms. Jan holds a master's degree in international law and economics from the World Trade Institute, University of Bern, Switzerland. Our third presenter for this panel is Ms. Crystal Anuquin from the Trade Facilitation West Africa. She is a specialist on trade and logistics, agronomy and customs specialist. She is an international consultant with more than 20 years of hands-on experience in transport, logistics, trade, and customs in West Africa. An agroeconomic engineer, she also holds a master's in agro-commodity trading from the École Supérieure des Sciences Commerciales Appliquées. That's French. Her work with the World Bank Group and Trade Facilitation West Africa program allows her to work on customs, regional interconnection, facilitate small-scale traders crossing borders, initiate work on gender equality in the transport and trade sectors, and support emergency issues raised by the COVID-19 crisis related to transport and trade facilitation. Ladies and gentlemen, for our first session, we have these three panelists who will give us insight into what they have been doing and how their work has impacted on SMEs and gender mainstreaming. So we all know that the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement entered into force in February 2017 when 2/3 of its membership signed onto it. It's also indicated that the full implementation of the TFA will bring about many benefits, especially for SMEs, some of which are: one, to reduce cost, enable SMEs enter into other markets and diversify their exports. The agreement was also to empower women entrepreneurs and improve infrastructure, whilst also building capacity. Ms. Rhoda Janiter, how far do you see these benefits for SMEs and in particular for women? What are some of the challenges that these SMEs do face in their cross-border trade transactions? That is, if you think, in your opinion, the benefits have not yet accrued to the SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for this opportunity. And let me also say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our listeners out there. I must state that small-scale cross-border trade serves as the main source of income for communities along the communities or the along African borders. It is important also to mention that these women, these traders are mostly women, and I want to focus more on Africa. The World Bank has estimated that about 90% of these small-scale border traders are women, and this is because of the flexibility it affords for the small-scale border traders to be able to trade and at the same time take care of their homes. It is also because of the small startup capital that is required and the earning opportunity that it offers in these border areas where really other opportunities are rarely available. So women in cross-border trade contribute significantly to the economies of their countries, and any measure that is put in place to facilitate the cross-border trade for these women is welcome, or it's not only beneficial to these women, but also to their countries. So therefore, we would say that the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement and its measures have impacted and the work of these women immensely. So you would see that Africa embraced it as a tool for economic development, and the impact following the implementation of these measures has been enormous. It has to extent created some reliable and relatively fast and economic or maybe cost-effective trade environment. And this really benefits businesses, especially the small and medium-sized enterprises. It has also, to a large extent, reduced delays at the borders, and this is through the introduction of the joint border post. Again, we can also see that the request for multiple trade information by government agencies have been well managed through the implementation of these measures. And so therefore, procedures have been more simplified and the redundancies have been eliminated. You know, but in spite of the progress that we have made and with all of these implementation, small-scale cross-border traders still have problems or still face problems in their trading activities. There are a number of them, but I will limit myself to just 4. because of the time factor, and I would look at the limited access to finance and also look at the digital illiteracy among these women. And there is also the issue of limited knowledge on regulatory requirements and policies, as well as harassment and abuses that these women face at the borders. You would agree with me that technology has taken the center stage of everything we do in the world, and trade is no exception. So most African ports and border have gone paperless for most steps of the cross-border trade processes. And this comes with benefits, again, particularly for micro, small, and medium enterprises. It is expected that the activities of these traders would be mainstream into the general transformation of cross-border trade. However, majority of these women are barely literate. And you would agree with me, once you do not know how to use this gadget, it becomes very difficult for you, because there is a need for them to develop the skills and the skills to read or write, possibly even to type and use these smart devices that comes with the use of the internet. So because of this illiteracy, it hinders their ability to access online services that we have actually migrated from the manual way of doing things. Secondly, the issue of financing is a major constraint for these traders. And in most of our banks, they have very stringent loan requirements and very complex documentation processes, which makes it almost impossible to assess a loan. And for example, in most African banks, they would ask for a collateral, and these collaterals are really landed properties. And you would agree with me that women in this sector barely have these properties. So right away, they are disadvantaged to assess any loan from the bank. Again, these banks have very high interest rates, and these rates render one almost uncompetitive in the market. So what these women do is to resort to personal savings and informal network, and they would borrow from loan sharks and then family members and friends. And these means of financial assistance or financing poses a lot of challenge to these women. Another challenge I would like to talk about is the limited knowledge on regulatory requirements and policies. As I mentioned earlier, I have seen, or I think that most African countries have put in a lot of effort to simplify and harmonize trade processes and procedures in Africa. So we have seen deliberate policies pointing to this direction, and African countries have gone into some bilateral and regional trade agreements, okay, in an effort to facilitate trade in our ports and even at our borders. However, these women have very little or no knowledge at all of these policies and agreements. And some of these policies are actually there to exempt these women from paying duties, and some of them to provide the means for redress should they encounter any issues in their transactions. So unfortunately, these women end up paying facilitation fees and other official payments at the borders. Largely, the problem is also because these texts are written in English and not in local languages or dialects. So it's difficult for these women to understand and to make the most out of this. I would be doing these women injustice if I do not mention harassment, because we have seen a lot of these at our borders. And as I mentioned earlier, again, the majority of these women are exposed to harassment from male officials in a complex web of offering sexual favors in return for services. A specific research in Liberia actually speaks to these facts, where this 37% of respondents in the survey had said they have experienced sexual violence, and about 15% had also been raped or forced to have sex in exchange for favors. So these are critical issues that I know are receiving some form of attention at the national and regional, as well as some benevolent organizations and international ones are trying to help in this direction. But I know that there is more to be done, and WISTA can play a critical role in creating that enabling environment for women in cross-border trade. I would pause here and hope that we can discuss this further at the question and answer time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rhoda. You've really elaborated on this topic. There are indeed serious problems when it comes to our SMEs, especially our women. And trade policies across the world have tried to find solutions to these challenges for women. And we hope that gradually we'll reach that point where women will have good knowledge of their own rights and privileges. Indeed, WISTA is called upon to do a lot, and there will be the need of education and training in whatever language is suitable for our SMEs. So we'll note it down, and when we come to the discussions, we'll be talking more. But I know that another major benefit of trade facilitation is to improve regional integration, hence intra-regional trade. And I would like to know that the African Continental Free Trade Area has as one of its major objectives to boost intra-African trade and increase the trade within the continent. Globally, as compared to other continents, it seems African trade amongst itself is very little. Today we have Jamita with us, and would like to ask her, especially based on the challenges that Rhoda has just enumerated, what would she say the role of the African continental trade to lessen these challenges, to increase intra-regional trade, and to make sure that women contribute to this without the needed harassment? Thank you. Jamita, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I am indeed glad to be here, and let me express the Secretariat's appreciation that WISTA invited us to this meeting. I will go straight to the point, but before I do that, I need to tell you a little bit about what the African Continental Free Trade Area really is. And it is an agreement. It is an agreement that introduces a rules-based system. It's not that we have not traded before now. We were trading, but this is an agreement that now brings together 55 countries to say, these are the rules that we want to govern our trading. So it's a rules-based trade governance system. And in that system, it is something that started a long time ago, right? Because the founding fathers at the establishment of the African Union actually pointed to the fact on the need for African countries to trade more so that they can reverse a legacy of trading more with the rest of the world, you know, than trading with themselves. So the agreement, the way it is structured to be negotiated in phases. And within the phase one negotiations, what we harvested is the agreement itself, then a protocol on trading goods, a protocol on trading services, and then a rules and procedure for the settlement of disputes. Now, let me go straight to what you wanted me to address. If you look at the protocol on trading goods, it has annexes, and those annexes, Annex 3, 4, and 8, is on customs cooperation, trade facilitation, and transit. Now, The agreement recognizes the fact that the reason why we don't trade among ourselves goes beyond tariffs. Tariffs is one of them, but it's not just tariffs. So before now, the tariff structure within African countries is complex, it is high. So the agreement starts with that need to remove tariffs on made in Africa goods. But beyond removing tariffs on made in African goods, if you do not, for instance, facilitate trade, if you do not, for instance, have cooperation among the customs administrations that will be administering this removal of tariffs, if you do not facilitate transits of goods, you will not be able to harvest the objective, the goal of increasing intra-African trade. So the way the agreement is structured, it is structured in such a way to answer some of the challenges that have been presented by Rhoda, some of the challenges to trade that is faced by cross-border traders. Now, if you go through what the policy aspects of the agreement contains, so trade facilitation in itself is simplifying and harmonizing these procedures in a way that goods can flow effectively and efficiently across borders. The transit provisions make room for goods to be able to transit also seamlessly. And then the customs cooperation aspect of it, if one customs administration is not able to speak to the next customs administration, not just speaking in terms of a human interaction, but in terms of information flow between an administration to the next, you would also realize that the goals of increasing intra-Africa trade might be hindered and hampered a little. Where does SMEs now come into this? Where do you have women as a particular focus? Where do they come into this? Now, overall, if you simplify border crossing procedures, if you simplify trade procedures, you would actually be benefiting the SMEs more. Why? The large corporations already have at their disposal the means with which to fulfill the requirements of these tedious border crossing procedures that might not be available to the SMEs. So when you have a rules-based system that governs your trade, that says these are the things that your rights and obligations, rights in terms of what the SME is entitled to, and obligations also in terms of what they are supposed to do to be able to cross the borders effectively. If you have that kind of system in place and you are implementing it, it follows that the small and medium scale enterprise stands to benefit from a simplified rules-based system. So what is happening at the continental level, since we have negotiated the agreement, is actually now the stage of implementation. And what the Secretariat is charged with is the implementation of the agreement and the provisions of the agreement. Now, this allows us to undertake projects, to undertake programs that would actually simplify border crossing procedures, that will simplify trade. Rhoda spoke to the issue that there is limited knowledge of regulations by female cross-border traders. Now, one of the projects that we want to put in place is actually transparency, which the agreement provides for. So there will be transparency, and transparency means you publish. And we want to make the publication, we want to take it to the grassroots level. Grassroots level in the sense that at border crossing points, we hope to be able to have, in a transparent way, where you can see it as you are approaching the borders, in a local language, that those who cross the borders speak the rights and obligations of the AFCFTA traders. So this is one of the programs. The second program is a simplified trade regime that we are borrowing from the East African community, because they have been able to successfully implement a simplified trade regime. In a simplified trade regime, goods that are below a certain threshold can actually cross the borders without passing through all the processes and the procedures. And if we go by the statistics that is already provided by previous speakers, that a majority of SMEs are actually women. And the majority of these SMEs that are actually involved in cross-border trade. And so if you simplify, if you have a simplified trade regime where goods that are below a certain threshold can actually cross free of these encumbrances, you would have actually helped women in trade. You would have actually helped SMEs. Like it was said earlier, trade agreements don't have a bias, but its implementation can have a bias. And so we want to factor this in. And because we want to factor this in, the heads of state and the governments agreed at a summit that they would add women and youth in trade to the protocols that will be harvested under the AFCFTA to give that particular group focus and the bias that is needed in international trade. And why do women need this bias? They simply need it because socio-economic, cultural expectations of women actually place more demand on their time than it does for their counterparts. So that you realize that a woman that is involved in cross-border trade might not actually have the privilege of the time, of the delays that you experience in cross-border activities. Then we are also looking at digitization. I know Rhoda mentioned and said women have a challenge to this, but it's actually the key to solving the problems. You know, His Excellency, the Secretary General of the Secretariat, likes giving this example of women that he encountered in Kenya that use their mobile phones to access international markets. These are women trading in rural areas, trading in cut flowers. But, you know, the mobile phone has then enabled them to connect them to international markets, and so that they can do their business. Also, so we have a program that we are going to implement where through just your basic simple device of mobile phone, you can actually complete border crossing procedures. And you can actually also report infringements with same device. And so in terms of NTB and NTB monitoring for cross-border trade, which actually harassments will come under that, because nobody's meant to harass you because you're trying to trade across the borders. So so we will deploy a tool with which, you know, infringements can be monitored, and it is designed in such a way that when an infringement is reported, it will be seen everywhere. So it will be seen by authorities, it will be seen by the 54 participating member states that at this particular point, this is actually what is happening. You know, so we are that's part of the programs that we intend to implement under the AFCFTA. Now, access to finance. I'm actually trying to address some of the issues that Rhoda raised. So access to finance, recognizing that we cannot achieve the kind of trade we want to achieve, benefit women, benefit youth in trade, if they don't have, their businesses don't have access to finance. And it is because of this that the AFCFTA is collaborating with finance institutions in Africa, like Afreximbank. And what we want to do is to raise a trade finance facility specifically for women in trade, so that their businesses can access the money that they need to be able to trade, because it will also not achieve our purpose if in implementing the AFCFTA and we achieve the women and youth in trade protocol, we achieve all the trade facilitation measures, yet that business does not have the finance with which to actually now do the things that they are supposed to do. So we would have a dedicated trade finance facility for women in trade. So it is also one of the programs that we intend to implement. But overall, what we are doing in the AFCFTA is that we have actually prioritized customs cooperation, trade facilitation, and transit, because we do recognize that the policies will remain on our shelves if we don't get the customs to work, if we don't get trade facilitation measures in place. And with trade facilitation measures, we are also thinking logistics, because you could put all the measures in place, right? And the goods cannot move from point A to point B. your measures will remain on the shelf. So we are also thinking logistics. And because we are thinking logistics and we are thinking infrastructure, we are also on an advocacy drive to actually attract investment into some of the trade corridors so that as we talk the policy and we talk its implementation, we will have the backing logistics and infrastructure to make it work. And so along that line, we also are going to have a dedicated trade facilitation fund for the AFCFTA, and that is to address some of the challenges, the infrastructural challenges that we know. And to kick this off, we actually have a corridor approach. And we actually did launch that corridor approach some 2 weeks back in Lomé, Togo, where we had a meeting of the authorities that are responsible for trade along the Abidjan-Lagos corridor. And what we intended to achieve by that meeting is to have them, first of all, talking, and then have them agree on interventions that are needed on that route, and then bring in the financiers to be able to finance whatever infrastructural needs that are needed to have trade flowing seamlessly along corridor. And like I said, it will have a gender bias because we do recognize that though the agreement itself does not have, is neutral, but the implementation can have a bias. And we realize that it is with that bias that women can be said to benefit as much as the men in terms of international trade. So that is on. And I might also mention that already there have been indications that we have indication from a partner who is willing to put down £35 million for trade facilitation with a gender focus, so that we can achieve the things that we set out to achieve as far as the AFCFTA is concerned. I don't know whether I took more than my 10 minutes, but there it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Indeed, you have a lot to share. And I'm happy that you have told us that the African Continental Free Trade is actually addressing some of the issues, if not all, that Rhoda presented to us. I'm very, very happy to hear that. And when we come to the question and answers time, I think that there will be a few thrown to you to elaborate on what you said. Thank you very much, Demeter. And I will ask Crystal. Crystal is from the Trade Facilitation and for West Africa. So quickly tell us how Trade Facilitation West Africa is improving the flow of goods along the West African corridor and how it is working on gender mainstreaming. We want to know, because you have just been set up with one of the objectives to increase the flow, and considering some of the challenges that have been mentioned, what have been your impact so far? Crystal, in a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having invited us. Prior answering your question, I have to just present you the program. So the Trade Facilitation West Africa program is a multi-donor program, which includes USAID, European Union, Government of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and the Government of the Federal Republic of Germany. So the Trade Facilitation program aims to support the West African countries and the regional bodies like ECOWAS and UMOA Commission on the regional trade facilitation agenda. The program is implemented by the World Bank Group and the German Development Cooperation Agency, GIZ. So the program, what is doing TFWA? So the program strives to reduce the time and costs, the cost of trade borne by the private sector, especially by improving the movement of goods along some selected corridors. And also, we also support small-scale traders, especially women, with trade facilitation measures, reforms, and program. So what we have done through the program for now. So we are working through we are working on various activities around three main pillars, which are first improving trade facilitation measure in West Africa and implementing them in a more efficient manners. Improving the movement of goods along the selected corridor, and reducing barrier for small-scale traders and key stakeholders, especially women. So what has been done so far? We begin to at each border stakeholders mapping, because in fact we didn't have any figures on who are the traders, what are their needs, and what are the issues. So we did that for in 6 countries, and those bring us a lot of there's been a lot of thought, and we sometimes reorient the program accordingly. If we want to, regarding also the borders, we have launched and review some border support centers that helps small-scale traders crossing borders. We've really a focus on women traders. We also have looked on increasing logistic and transport participation and promotion of women in logistic and transport sectors. We also are trying to promote the private sector association and civil society organization to be more effective in a trade facilitation policy. So these are more or less the big things that we have done. We also have work on regional trade and instrument policies, customs, interconnection. Also, we really we make some activities, local activities like group age initiative in Togo, that women who didn't have that much activities or volume benefited from this. And okay, this is more or less what we have been working on.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Trade Facilitation for West Africa and your international partners. Thank you. I will go then to our second panel that will discuss industry changes and its impact on SMEs, opportunities and threats. And we have Mr. Ricardo Sanchez and Miriam Moriso from Argentina. And so permit me to introduce the two who will be discussing this topics. Mr. Ricardo Sanchez is a PhD holder in economics. He is an internationally recognized expert in infrastructure and maritime economics, with a special focus in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. He has worked professionally and academically in 30 out of 33 countries of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as of Europe and Asia. He holds more than 176 publications among books, chapters in books, reviewed articles, working papers, etc. Since 2003, he is a staff of the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, in charge of infrastructure service ports, infrastructure, ports, maritime and logistics issues, and physical integration. Mr. Sanchez is a member of the International Association of Maritime Economics, the Port Performance Research Network, and the Argentina Association of Political Economy, AAEP. He has participated in more than 260 missions, developing technical assistance programs, participating in multi-agency and intergovernmental meetings, coordinating and organizing conferences, and many other activities related to infrastructure, financing, transport, mobility, logistics, and regulations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Ricardo Sanchez, Senior Economic Affairs Officer of ECLAC. And we have for his partner in this discussion, Ms. Muriel Morizo. She holds a bachelor in international relations at the Torquato de Tella University and a master's in international senior management at the Universidad Complutense of Madrid, an MBA with specialization in international commerce and project management at Therim Business School, Spain, with a professional qualifying examination from the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. And she's also a member of that institution, the ICS. She is a founding member of WISTA Argentina and member of the WISTA International Trade Committee. She is an expert in shipping as well as multimodal transport with more than 15 years of experience working in the maritime industry. Muriel manages English and Spanish as native language and has an advanced knowledge of French and Portuguese, an international woman indeed. So we have these two to take up the panel. And my question is to Mr. Sanchez. In recent times, since this pandemic, there have been changes in our industry. I mean, severe changes. And notable amongst them is what is happening right now. We started in the early part of 2020, and we don't know when that will end. Our world of shipping and trade is very dynamic, one that presents opportunities and threats to either the carrier or the shipper. At the beginning of the year 2020, ocean rates skyrocketed and containers were in lack. This put our shippers in a tight corner, especially our SMEs, whilst the carriers made the best of the situation, profiting. And this has affected all major shipping routes. It's a global issue. How do we prepare ahead? And what are the opportunities and threats for SMEs as they work towards our economic development? This will be, what will ECLAC be doing in this direction? Mr. Sanchez.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. For me, it's really an honor to be part of this initiative. And always you can, I am very grateful to be taken into your consideration for these issues. Then let me share my presentation according to the questions made by Na. Then about shipping industry and freight rates and situation of Latin America and the world related to exports, imports, freight rates behavior. And but thinking about the international containerized maritime trade. It is obvious that the world is facing a notorious disruption and alteration, and a profound alteration of the normal flow of the containerized supply chain. It is very important for me to highlight we have no problem of no availability of containers or the lack of enough quantity of ships or etc. No, we have a problem because the entire supply chain is disrupted. The causes are diverse. Firstly, there is an unprecedented shortage of space available to transport goods, for instance, from Asia to the West, which is being transmitted to the rest of the world, even those that are not the global front lines, such as Latin America. Along with this, the shortage of containers in Asia means that they leave the cargo ports with less full ships without enough containers afterwards to load the exports. Secondly, the bottlenecks at major international ports and the temporary closures of some Chinese maritime terminals due to strict measures to control the COVID-19. In some cases, non-core operations were restricted, and in most countries, severe measures were taken with regard to cruise ships, some of which have been denied berthing in ports and stranded. In addition, you remember the famous blank sailings that were practiced, especially during the first half of the pandemic in 2020, which are at the beginning of the chain of delays. Yeah? From those delays to the present delays. It's a continuous process. Yeah. Another issue to mention is the closure of factories in countries such as India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, etc., due to the pandemic, and even in China. For these reasons, it has been said that we are facing an acute supply chain crisis, which has a strong shipping industry component, resulting in a destructive cycle of extensive delays and skyrocketing costs. In short, there was a perfect storm in the container shipping industry, with a number of events occurring almost simultaneously that resulted in not enough ships, not enough containers, and too many delays in and out of ports. Along with this, it should be noted that this affects the entire supply chain, not just the ports. Latin America, excuse me. Latin America and the world regarding export, imports, and trade rates behavior, a few things must be mentioned. Spot rates are well above any previous rate. Trans-Pacific spot rates have risen between 8,000 and 11,000 per FEU, and higher and higher and higher, from Asia to the U.S. coast, west coast of the United States, and between 11,000 and 20,000 to the United States East Coast. In the Asia-Europe trade, for instance, they exceed 10,000 per few, and this is before paying extra for equipment and capacity warranty. There are even rates approaching 14,000 to 15,000 per few from Asia to the Northern Europe. Road reliability on both operations remains atrocious. The latest data from Sea Intelligence, for instance, shows that despite improvements, 78% of ships arriving to US West Coast are late. with an average delay of 10 days. In essence, then, there is no shortage when you simply measure the number of containers and ships available against the amount of cargo that needs to be shipped. The problem is that it now takes much longer to move cargo and equipment, which in turn absorbs large amounts of capacity. This also means that we are now at a point where there is literally not enough capacity to move the cargo that needs to be transported. This is one of the reasons for the extreme increases in freight rates, as exporters with a choice between losing the sale of cargo or paying very high rates. As you can see in this chart, freight rates, unlike the other indicators shown above, have exhibited a very different trend during the pandemic. And it is that in the midst of the difficulties due to the falls in transport and trade, they began a process of increase that has taken them to record highs. In this chart, you can compare the world average transport value of a 40-foot container, and it allows you to observe the difference between the years 2019, 2020, and 2021. Yeah, in the below chart, you can see the movement of containers with trade, full containers. Yeah, evolution month by month. Yeah, and above the evolution of freight rates. Clearly, there is a huge gap between the evolution of the trade and the evolution of freight rates. Just to give an example, the value registered last week is between 3 and 4 times higher in 2021 than in 2019 and 2020. If you compare freight rates versus trading, the previous crisis, yeah, the crisis of 2008 to 2009 against 2019, 20, and 21. Yeah, this is a very important figures for us because this is a very good proxy for imports from Asia to not only Los Angeles, Long Beach, but Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And it's very interesting to compare the different behavior in the crisis of 2008, 9 versus 2019, 2020, and 2021. For instance, meanwhile, the increase of trade volumes in 2010 was 10% higher than 2009. Yeah, the evolution of freight rates was absolutely related to the evolution of volumes traded. Yeah, but in 2020 and 21, you have a 14% more volumes traded. Yeah, but the freight rates are increasing 3 or 4 or 5 times. Yeah, in the extreme, a container moved from Asia to Americas, to South America, or to Central America, yeah, was up 10 times between June 2020 to June 2021. Then, obviously, there is several reasons to understand the different behavior of freight rates regarding the evolution of trade. But the main reason is related to my first comment. Yeah, the pandemic has thrown the entire supply chain into a turmoil, but the usual explanations are partial and are not enough. Then the main concern, the main problem are the effects of this situation, particularly the rise in freight rates that impact on a possible loss of competitiveness of exports, as Latin America is one of the regions most affected by the rise in freight rates. Remember, increases of up to 10 times in container transport between June 2020 and the present. However, it should be qualified in the sense that larger exporters and commodity exporters have been less affected by freight rates, as these are compensated by better prices and volume increases. On the other hand, exporters of processed products, manufactured products, industrial inputs, and capital goods suffered fully from the loss of competitiveness caused by transport costs. This could only be compensated by higher volumes, but this is difficult precisely by the impact of freight rates. Although the increase in freight rates was compensated by the rise in raw materials, for instance, it was a significant break on the export of primary products. It is always a negative factor in the region's participation in international trade. However, the most affected exporters are the small and medium-sized ones, who do not have the capacity to react and do lose competitiveness in their exports. Obviously, they cannot pass on the higher cost to the export prices. According to Daniela and Paula research, later confirmed in other countries, for the case of small cargoes, importing a cubic meter from one of China's large ports cost about $10 per cubic meter. And even less before the pandemic, while currently is charged about $195. Then the impact on the SMEs is very clear and is huge. With respect to imports, the impact is threefold. In a similar way to the previous analysis, it affects the productive sector that import capital goods and inputs. Secondly, to the extent that the relevant proportion of the region's import consists of consumer goods, it directly and regressively affects the population's standard of living. And number three, it is an inflation engine. Then the macroeconomic impact due to inflation is very concerning and not always properly considered in the frequent analysis. Finally, while the shipping industry is recovering from the negative figures of 2020, ship owners showed no signs of slowing container freight rates. According to Drury, container freight rates on some routes are approaching 13,000 US dollars per few, and high freight rates result in high profits for the shipping industry, with 3 alliances currently holding 83% of the world containerized seaborne trade market share. The freight boom has led to record profitability for ship owners in 2021. Out of a list of 13 ship owners selected by Drury, these ship owners had an average share return in the second quarter of 2021 of 135%. Earnings reached even higher figures at an average of 187% plus until the first half of July 2021. Then clearly we have a very different and unfair situation if you compare the large companies with the negative impacts that the situation have on the SME. Then thank you very much for this opportunity, and I am here for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you so much. In fact, the picture painted really makes my heart sing, especially for our SMEs. I was thinking that maybe towards the end of this year, 2021, by the end of the last quarter, our SMEs will have some relief. The shipper will have some relief, because it seems as if the shipping lines are enjoying, especially with their blank sailings. It's unfortunate, but I'm wondering what we can do. Muriel, in your opinion, with this picture that we have, how can we protect the interest or even represent the interest of our SMEs? How do you see WISTA supporting any initiative in this direction? How can we do something to protect and represent their interests effectively?
Thank you very much, Na, and good day and afternoon, everyone. My presentation is going to be a little more specific, not much about numbers, but specifically what we can do and why the Trade Committee was created, actually. We know SME are small companies. Generally, they do not have people specialized in international commerce that can help them develop in such a way. So the idea of this Trade Committee is try to guide them and give them the knowledge. I think the key word here is knowledge, because we can talk about numbers and about theories and laws, but if the SMEs do not have the knowledge of how to do it, this will all just remain in numbers and talks. So in the Trade Committee, we sustain that the key point here is training, knowledge, and that's why the idea of our help towards them is at the first stage, prepare seminars, prepare roundtables, so they can have key contacts in the markets. And actually the idea of WISTA International itself, it's to be able to have key contacts all around the world. So if you ever need someone from Germany, if you need someone from China, if you need someone from Guatemala, you can always find a member there that can help you or help you in the logistics, in the trading, or even just answer a question. I think that's the aim of WISTA. And the Trade Committee wants to put a little bit more of, let's say, hard point on this and how we are going to work towards that. Why we sustain the training is the key point, because the majority of the SME and people, especially in Latin America and in developing countries, maybe in developed countries, they have more access to knowledge or to training, but especially in developing countries, this is a very limited resource, let's say. So the majority of them do not even think about going international. They say, I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. Yeah. So the aim of this committee is especially that. Try to guide them, try to give them our knowledge, and give them that first step that they need, and even the contacts that they may need in other countries to be able to start their first baby steps, let's say, in the international commerce. As many of us know, there are a lot of things that international trading involves. It's not only laws and contracts, but for example, people have to know what Incoterms are, what are their consequences, what freight clauses they have to have depending on the Incoterm they have, the importance of insurance, the different types of freight contracts, how to do a letter of credit, etc. There are a number of things, and right now they do not know how to do it, and that's where we enter. That's the idea of this trade committee. Try to help those companies. On one side, the small companies that want to go into the international market, and of course invite any member and new members that want to participate here and help and try to make this networking that it's WISTA even bigger. And just to try to connect a little bit with what Ricardo said, this crisis in the freight rates that especially Ricardo marked on the container side also had an impact on the break bulk and bulk side. Why? Because many of the companies that were usually shipping in containers had to turn to break bulk and bulk, because many companies cannot just wait 3 months to get a supply because some mills just stop. So I have faced during these last 2 years many clients that had no idea of how to do that, and try to help them and inform them, give them chats and trainings, because it's not the same. It's not the same to do, for example, a container than to try to do a break bulk in a free in term or a free out term, or what's the consequences on demurrage, congestion of the ports, extra costs that may arise. So this crisis also brought, I think, a new opportunity to show that containers are a way to go, but there are other logistic ways. That the important about interconnection in the world is to try to be creative, let's say. Usually we were always going for the normal container logistic way, okay? And now everyone tries to be creative. Let's see how we can do this, if we can do a multimodal, if we can do it by train, by break bulk, etc. So I think it is a crisis in the international market, but it's also a key point where we can try to develop further all the logistics and key marks in the industry. So to resume, the trade committee, that's our aim. Try to help them, try to connect people all around the world and give them that first step that they need and maybe they don't have access to. So to finalize, we do invite everyone that it's not yet a member of WISTA. If you are interested, to just approach us. The idea and aim of this organization is to interact and put in contact women all around the world so that we can help each other, give the knowledge we have to each other, and try to develop and do international commerce by trade, logistics, law, etc. better. So that's the idea and the aim of WISTA International and what we want to do with the trade committee. Thank you very much, Na.
Thank you, Muriel. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've actually shown us how we can help them. Training, capacity building in the areas that we see them to be weak. And I think that Rhoda also mentioned that some of them are not literate. So we can see that this is a general thing across, especially in developing nations. Thank you, Muriel, for bringing it out. Education and training is paramount. And this is where WISTA comes in with this expertise. And so I would say to all the members of the Trade Committee, you have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of collaborating and cooperating with international organizations to bring knowledge to our SMEs. Thank you, Muriel. And our next panel is on digitalization and SMEs. How are they coping with it? And we have for our panel, Ms. Sanjam Sahi Gupta and Ms. Shubhangi Poddar from the World Economic Forum to talk to us about how SMEs can benefit from digitalization and improve their lot. Ms. Sanjam Sahi Gupta is a director for Sitara Shipping Limited, which specializes in the handling of over-dimensional cargo. She is a member of the Executive Board of Directors of the World Maritime University, based in Malmö, Sweden, and a governing council member of the Logistics Skill Council in India. She is a founder member of Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, WISTA, and an executive member of the WISTA International. In 2014, the International Women's Leadership Forum awarded her Leading Woman in Shipping Business, and was also awarded in 2014 by the SPGRMR Business School as the Outstanding Family Business. In May 2018, she was the recipient of the Sandvik Gender Award for her outstanding contribution and commitment to gender equality. As part of her award, she conducted India's first survey for gathering data on women in maritime. And she'll be doing that for trade as well. We'll be calling on her to do that. Glenmark Pharmaceuticals awarded her Woman of the Year 2019 in March. In June 2019 again, she was invited as part of the high-level panel initiative by the Norwegian Prime Minister, Erna Solberg, for a sustainable ocean economy, comprising a group of world leaders from coastal states committed to ocean action in support of the Sustainable Development Goals. This panel will address 14 heads of government across the world that will drive the transition to a new and sustainable economy for a wealthier and healthier planet. Ms. Gupta is also part of the Diversity Committee of the International Chamber of Shipping. To further her commitment to diversity in the maritime and trade industry, she has launched what we call the Maritime SHIO to provide solutions to the industry. With this, you can see that we have somebody who is very much interested in diversity, women empowerment, and trade as a whole. She is an NVOCC on her own. She's a non-vessel operating career, a common career, and so she has experience in dealing with her own customers. And I think this afternoon, she will spare us some of her experiences in leading SMEs, who are mostly her customers. And then we have the next panelist, Ms. Shubhangi Poddar, a specialist in community engagement and strategy at the World Economic Forum. Ms. Poddar is at the World Economic Forum for the Fourth Industrial Revolution in India. She works at the intersection of emerging technologies and social impact, looking at the responsible deployment of these technologies in domains such as education and circular economy. Previously, she worked as a research analyst with Monash University in Australia and has served as National Impact India's ambassador. She graduated from Ashoka University with economics and finance honors. Ladies and gentlemen, we have these two panelists well-versed in digital technologies, and they will brief us as to how we can help our SMEs. Ms. Gupta, Sanjam, we all know that the global pandemic has hit hard on businesses. but it has also have its positive side when it comes to the digital technology transformation. When one day we all woke up and we are confined to our homes, which we call lockdown, and we did not have much to do except to tend to our computers and work over them. For small and medium-scale enterprises, how do they stand to benefit from using digital technologies as they open up new business opportunities in the global economy? Ms. Sanjam, as a non-vessel operating common carrier, how would you support your SME, your customers in this situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Na. It's great to be here. And welcome to all the WISTA sisters, all the ladies and guests joining us today. This is truly a global panel and on a very important topic of trade. So speaking from the point of view of SMEs, I'd like to say that there is an initial investment of money, time, and getting the right human resources and adapting to new technologies. And while many SMEs may intend and be willing to even have financial investments, they will be competing with global giants. Attracting the best human resources can be a huge challenge. In one such scenario, an option would be to partner or cooperate with bigger players rather than just compete. For example, a lot of aggregators offer solutions for SMEs. In the pandemic, I personally saw the launch of various portals, Transpost being one. It's a platform in India which was launched by the promoters of 7 Island Shipping, which offers solutions to SMEs to enable them to use technologies and services. This would offer them a level playing field and even help them cut down on their costs. However, each SME would have to find the right fit for their businesses from the various platforms that are available today. As an NVOCC, we have been focusing on providing customized solutions to our customers as per their gaps. And I even think that for our customers, it's the way forward to focus on their customers, identify the problems, highlight the risk and the hidden cost. While we have been slow to adapt to digitization as an industry, I think that there was a definite acceleration in the pace of adaptation with COVID. COVID impacted SMEs much harder because a lot of them had limited working capital funds. They're also competing with global giants who are now into backward and forward integration. So for example, DP World, which is a port company, is now no longer branding itself as a port company. They're calling themselves a logistics provider, getting into various areas and verticals where SMEs were eventually ruling the roost. But on a positive note, there are also a lot of women SMEs who are in the foray, and we see that as huge potential for these women. Smaller companies definitely have opportunities to participate in the global economy, but they are lagging behind on digital transformation. From a personal note, when the pandemic struck, working remotely was not something that we were completely ready to accept, but overnight we had to embrace this in order to survive. Personally, we found that being a small business also meant that we are agile and we could adapt quickly. So always being an SME is not a negative thing. It's a positive way that you can kind of change, be agile and flexible. This also led to a huge reduction in our cost. It enhanced our competitiveness and we understood our customers better. We were able to quantify our goals and to choose from new and existing customers and specify our ideal customer profile by pursuing them. However, others were not as lucky. In our industry, several SMEs that we know of shut down, could not bear the burden of salaries and office rentals. By leveraging on digitization, I really believe small businesses will be able to address their key traditional problems, which are focusing on customer base, data security, customization of products and services. And businesses who did not earlier use market intelligence tools have plans to use it for the future. Those who have capacities financially are planning to adopt and leverage next generation techniques such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Internet of Things for business expansion. The ability to forecast is one of the most significant features of digital logistics solution. and SMEs frequently lack this tool to record data and important details of previous shipments. A data-driven strategy is essential. As a result, small firms may concentrate their attention, time, and resources on their core skills if they are supported by digitization. And to end, I would like to say that when I was in B school, we read something that said for years it's being said that the giants are going to gobble up the small businesses. And for years, it's turned out to be untrue. And in the words of Peter Drucker, if I may, absolute size by itself is no indicator of success and achievement. Being the right size is. So to all our SMEs, to all the women who are running these amazing businesses, be the right size and drive change.
Thank you, Sanja. Thank you so much. This is very interesting. Be the right size. So it doesn't matter your size, but if you can move forward, then you are in the right direction. Good. Thank you. Shibangi, good afternoon. Or is it good evening by now?
Good evening here in India.
Okay. We know that the WEF, that is the World Economic Forum, has one of its focus as business entrepreneurship and the global public interest. Digital technology is seen as both a threat and an opportunity. How does WEF see its role in this at this time? At this time, meaning the pandemic situation. Thank you, Shaba.
Great. Thank you so much, Na. And firstly, big congratulations to the entire committee for such a great launch. It's been really insightful hearing you all and a good learning opportunity for me as well. Andrea, can I request you to please showcase my slides? Thank you. Could we have it in full screen if possible? No worries. I think it's still legible, and I'll start till it's going into the full screen mode. So I think the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly added a massive shock to the global markets, which were already strained by trade tensions. There has been quite a lot of discussion there. And the fourth industrial revolution, which is associated with rapid technological change and digitalization, has already had a profound impact on the way we trade. Digital payments, data flows, digital service deliveries, particularly across borders, also playing a critical role in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So in such a scenario, how do businesses, governments ensure resilience, sustainability in a world post the pandemic? Are you all able to see the screen yet? I think it's gone on my side.
No, we can't see it, Shubhangi.
Not visible.
Share?
Andrea, no worries. Maybe I can share it on my side.
Andrea is fixing it at her end, yeah.
Okay, all right. Great, thank you so much. Could we move on to the next slide? Thank you. So I think this brings me to a good place where I could also introduce the World Economic Forum. I know Paula in her beginning talk mentioned that collaboration is key. Mural focused a lot on how WISTA as a platform facilitates that knowledge share and wants to bring about a change. So I think as the forum, we also believe in kind of this multi-stakeholder platform that we've built across different domains to bring different players together on key issues and set the agenda right. So this of course includes civil societies, big tech giants, as Na mentioned, business entrepreneurship that has separate lanes in the program itself, where we have global innovators focusing a lot on startups, governments, etc., coming on board together. I think I keep losing the slides. I'm not sure if that is happening with everybody.
Yeah, so they're taking a while to load actually.
Okay. But I can see them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. So as the forum also, like the first and foremost step for us is creating these multi-stakeholder communities to bring together the most influential, important players on board, shape agendas and mindsets by way of multi-stakeholder dialogues, workshops, roundtables, etc., as is envisaged in Vista's platform. And lastly, looking into executing projects, as Muriel mentioned, providing the guiding steps to actually bring some change on ground. So this was just a brief background about the forum, how we function, and bringing it on to the next bit. We've all seen that with the rise of these 4IR technologies, the means to facilitate trade has grown too. Digitalization and advanced technologies, of course, have the potential to significantly reduce processing times, cost of movement of goods, and further facilitate trade in services. Tech at this point is reshaping trade flows faster than policies can probably adapt, which is one of its key challenges. Disruptions from emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, IoT will only accelerate in the coming times. So I feel at this stage it's of utmost importance to ensure that the ecosystem takes steps to not only focus on efficiency of these technologies being deployed in the trade world, but also about bringing in inclusivity and equity in the process. Like Sanjam before mentioned, it of course gives a great space for SMEs to grow if used in the correct manner, and like just in that sense, kind of bringing in the different pieces together by being inclusive would be a game changer in this space. I think as the forum, we also, with the wake of COVID, took some steps in this field. I think first and foremost, as a fast response to the pandemic, there were, of course, trade restrictions on medical supplies and foodstuffs. With this, we engaged business and policymakers to make collective decisions regarding trade and investment governance as to root out what would be the best way forward. Think just in terms of more newer and new strategies that we're thinking in building resilience. One of them is digital trade. So accelerating e-commerce opportunities, building interoperable data flows, applying new technologies to trade, which has been of utmost importance. And on similar lines as the WISTA platform in India, I think we established a global alliance for trade facilitation. This partnership has enabled cut trade costs. Andrea, I lost you again. If it's all right, could I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. If Andrea could stop sharing hers, then Andrea, would you? Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think we're back on. No worries at all.
Yeah.
So I think like maybe I could focus on the digital trade initiative that we launched. So again, like I mentioned, digital trade and services are amongst the most dynamic sectors in this global economy. And AI, blockchain, IoT truly have that transformative power to take it to the next stage. Essentially, now also mentioned that digitalization, of course, comes as both an opportunity as well as a threat. But some of the key challenges that we as the forum have been focusing on is kind of seeing oftentimes the barriers to digital trades include outdated rules, new forms of protectionism, or domestic policymakers seek to address novel governance questions. I think one of the key areas, like I mentioned before, is that it's the need of the hour not only for digital trade to be efficient, but also inclusive, maintaining sustainability and equity in place. I think another key area was mentioned before was that e-commerce entrepreneurs must kind of navigate the different challenges like last mile delivery or secure cross-border payments. I think our approach has been similar to what is envisaged in Vista's platform as well, is that it accelerates e-commerce trade preparedness to benefit small businesses like mentioned by Muriel as well, to provide the right guidance to take next steps and bring about positive change at the right size. Secondly, kind of building interoperability for global data flows, including the right trade frameworks and regulatory cooperation that is required, and kind of just bringing on the point of business entrepreneurship and MSEs, kind of just providing the right ecosystem, the right frameworks to work in, which helps these firms also optimize the digital opportunities that are currently available. Lastly, I think mapping new trade technologies, including cloud services and distributed ledger technologies, and accordingly drive discussions on policies to balance the gains versus the risks, would be how the forum is looking at these different components. I think one additional and kind of interesting piece which the platform could definitely leverage is our transformational map. So if you probably just type it in Google, this thing pops up. And within trade itself, you can see how trade kind of links to different pieces. So be it small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, be it digital trade, be it how emerging technologies is impacting this space, which gives a very cohesive kind of picture of what is the kind of content that is available currently, what are some of the barriers that different stakeholders are facing in this area. And I think just to end out with, I spoke with Sanjam, etc. before as well. They'd mentioned that WISTA India aims to be a network for women to, of course, share knowledge, experience, and spread awareness to facilitate more growth opportunities. So I think very similar to that, the forum also, as the key player of bringing about different key stakeholders on board, looks into facilitating dialogues, building a positive vision for the way forward, seeing how we can improve and share knowledge between these key players. And lastly, kind of looking on more action on ground, develop the right policies and frameworks, again, as a multi-stakeholder group, and then partner and pilot with different organizations. So I definitely feel that WISTA, and with this launch, it would be a game changer for the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, at least in this space, with the great kind of global learning and seeing what would be the best way forward. I'll stop here and I'm happy to take any questions.
Right. Thank you very much, Shibangi, for your elaborate work from the WEF. We are grateful, and I think that WISTA is prepared to collaborate and to cooperate in any way possible to help our SMEs. I would like to move on to our time is almost up. Most of our panelists took more than their 10 minutes, and that has taken us a bit further down. So we'll have our last group of panelists. This is on digital, on trade tools, trade facilitation tools, and ESG. And we have for this panel, Ms. Gina Panayoto and Mr. Twin Di Benito Fernandez. And I will introduce them very quickly. Gina Panayoto is a maritime lawyer and strategist. She's the founder and CVO of Oceans Arena, a consultancy that practices and offers bespoke legal support and brand strategies to startups, NGOs, SMEs, and corporate organizations, especially those with the environment, social, and governance focus. Additionally, she's the concept founder, host, and producer of the online broadcast It's All About Shipping, the Fireside Chats, and the Global Legal Roundtable series, which focuses on youth empowerment and raising awareness of key legal issues affecting the oceans industry, respectively. An experienced maritime lawyer, Gina has been acknowledged by Legal 500, GC Power List Greece, and Cyprus as one of the top 100 in-house counsel driving innovation with their sector. She has held numerous senior roles, ranging from legal manager of a shipping-owning company, global head of shipping and energy in a multi-jurisdictional law firm, to in-house legal counsel of an international cruise ship. Her main focus is in transactional work, legal strategy, and policy. A self-development enthusiast, any free time she has is devoted to personal growth, which she feels is key in shaping a person into a change agent of substance and purpose, facilitating transitions from dreams to reality. And then we have Mr. Chin De Benito Fernandez from UNCTAD, who holds a degree in law at the University of Santa Maria, Caracas, Venezuela. She's of Venezuelan, he is of Venezuelan nationality, an expert in aviation and space law, specialization in information technologies and international transportation. He has 28 years of progressive experience in the tax, customs, foreign trade, and international transportation areas. He is and has management and legal analysis and elaboration of projects in the public and private sectors and in the international organization, an expert in customs and foreign trade legislation, as well as the elaboration of procedures, organizations, and methods engineering. Mr. Chin De Benito is currently the regional manager for UNCTAD, the DTL program, ASECUDA DTL for Latin America. He is also responsible for the regional center coordinating the support for ASECUDA for the Americas, technical support for El Salvador and the entire Latin America, the entire Latin America region. He is going to give us the trade facilitation tools for SMEs, whilst Gina talked about ESG. So my question to Gina is, environmental, social, and governance seems to be a very hot topic at the moment. Why should SMEs care? How can they utilize it for their benefit? And what role can diversity and inclusion have in this process? Gina, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Na, for that introduction and for being such a great host today. And I'm, of course, time conscious that we have run over time with the last session, so I would try and keep it short. But yes, given the opportunity, I would like to just say that this is an incredible day for us. I mean, obviously, this has shown today, this discussion, how needed this group was, how we needed this to fill the gaps. So it's incredible on behalf of WISTA UK to be a part of it. Obviously, with Brexit, it has also shown us why traders need reliable information and facilitation. So it's great to be a part of this trade committee. And without further ado, I promise I will keep it very short, just give some practical tips. And if anybody wants further information, you can just ask questions or email me at the end. So we can start the screen sharing now. ESG, a very popular topic. Obviously, we hear a lot about it. I personally am an ESG enthusiast, as I describe myself, because I think it's a power tool, especially for SMEs and startups. And today we'll just brief you through and how to get started, just give some tips. So going on to the next slide, the core pillars of it. We do have, I think I've got, yeah, okay, perfect. Sorry, we've got some technical issues today with this Teams, not my favorite tool, but anyway. The elements of ESG, obviously, as Na made an introduction, is environmental, social, and governance. Sustainability is not just about the environment, but it's also about the viability of a business, which I will hopefully be able to explain today. And which is why SMEs should take it seriously, and it can definitely give you a competitive advantage and also financially support your business, because with the current pandemic, obviously, as a few of the panelists mentioned today, and especially in the UK with Brexit, SMEs are the ones suffering the most. So when it comes to the environmental pillar, if you start measuring your environmental data, you will start thinking of other ways and being a bit more creative as to how to cut energy, water and waste usage, which will also, of course, work as a cost-saving exercise. So keeping this in mind, you can also be able to budget things better within your business. When it comes to the social aspect, this is something that is very close to my heart because it also enhances, of course, first of all, diversity and the role of women and inclusion in generally, but also attracting talent. So running your company with a focus on social well-being is also an invaluable tool in, as I mentioned, attracting your talent, especially with the younger generations, which are very purpose-driven and want to feel that they're contributing to making our planet a better place. And also retaining talent, which is very important from a business perspective, as it leads to low staff turnover, which means less cost in replacing people, more efficient processes, not a need to have to train people, new people all the time, etc. And of course, being diverse and inclusive. So as we know, as a lot of statistics have shown, being diverse and inclusive means for your business that you breed a more innovative culture. Again, a culture which is more cost saving, as you can accommodate to more client needs and understand them better, have ideas from diverse backgrounds, which is also very useful. Then when it comes to governance, this also is quite important if you're into investing and financing, or this is a requirement for your business. So risk management is key, and it appeals to your investors, it appeals to your financiers, it appeals to your customers, of course, and down your supply chain. This also brings cost savings in terms of insurance covering and premium pricing. So a lot of positives there to consider why having environmental, social, and government. I will also focus on the investment, financing, and competitiveness that this brings. So putting these practices in place, as I mentioned, financially is a positive for your business, but it also does make you more competitive and more proactive. And this is something that ESGs need to be, because nothing is a given when it comes to this type of companies. So having a strong ESG strategy would definitely set you apart when it comes to all of the above. And if we can just move on to the next slide. So why it matters particularly for SMEs, I already explained. SMEs are smaller businesses, female founded, they have more challenges, they need more capital, they need better processes, they need to be more efficient to survive if they're competing with these bigger organizations. So one of the key elements, as I mentioned, is investment. So today, 2/3 of investors take ESG factors into account, and this is increasingly growing. Strong mitigation, again, is very attractive to investors and financiers and to your clients, as we mentioned earlier. ESG is a huge global issue. So if in our case, as most of our businesses function on an international level or have plans to expand internationally, you will be aligned with global standards. When it comes to diversity, ESG is an amazing opportunity to focus on it and your goals, which would lead to the positives which have been established, such as innovation, better understanding of your customers' needs, a greater talent pool to take from. I mean, if you're utilizing 100% of the talent pool, that's obviously a benefit for your company. You know you have the right person on board, and higher retention rates, and then global supply chain. So they start with the big corporates, but what the big corporates will have to comply with will eventually impact your business, so you have to be prepared. Moving on to the next slide, I will go to the practicalities of how you can actually get there. So a few of the things that you can do, it's quite an extensive strategy, but as I said, I'll keep it basic, being aware of the time constraints, but you're free to ask me anything at the end or email me. So gather key environmental data, such as energy consumption, CO2 production, water consumption, and waste production. Chu now from UNCTAD will be discussing later on the tool of how you can do this. Prepare and apply the most important policies, so sustainability policies, discrimination policies, ethic policies, That was a mistake, but any sort of policies in this respect. Sorry, I repeated that, a typo in the presentation. Address diversity in the boardroom. So if you feel that your company is not diverse enough or inclusive, make a change. This is what WISTA is here for, to support you in that mission. And you can start by choosing 2 of the sustainable development goals that your business can contribute towards, and start planning a strategy in that respect. And as I mentioned just a second ago, as we move on to the next slide, Tuna is joining us today from UNCTAD. But you can actually track your progress with the help of some key ESG standards and metrics, such as the TCFD, GRI, and WEF IBC metrics. These are tools of tracking your progress in this respect once you have decided which sustainable development goals you're working to and how you want to report when it comes to environmental, social, and governance policies or strategies within your company. And moving on to the next slide now, which I promise is my last one. As I said, I'm keeping it as short as I can. UNCTAD and Tuna will be presented us with the ASUCUDA, which basically enables traceability of movement of goods and facilitates environmental reporting, sustained and inclusive economic growth, and the transparency of data and market access, which is quite important. It's in this mission of ESG, is quite important in facilitating especially SMEs, as I'm sure Tuna will explain going forward, and improving diversity and the issues which some of them have been quite shocking actually, that have been revealed today. And hopefully with this trade committee we will be able to fill in the gaps and assist in going forward. On that note, I think I kept it as short as I could now to give you some time for the rest of the speakers. ESG, for me, I think it's a great opportunity for change in these challenging times, a great opportunity to fill the gaps and lead forward more proactively. Any questions that you have, I'm happy to take in the chat, or you can just drop me an email anytime. So that was it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gina. This is a very interesting topic, and I don't think all SMEs are very much aware of the importance to even assist them in getting investors and financing. I think this is one topic we as WISTA should take it up, and as part of our capacity and training, we can add this as one of the topics. So thank you very much for elaborating on this very important presentation.
We're happy to. Thank you very much.
The Benito Fernandez of UNCTAD. We all know that UNCTAD is strongly behind trade facilitation. UNCTAD is strongly behind gender empowerment. And we know that UNCTAD is doing as much as possible to ensure that there's equality in everything, trade. But I would like to know what some of the tools are for promoting trade facilitation among countries, and in what ways SMEs can benefit from these tools. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you so much, Paula, and the rest of the member of the WISTA. And on behalf of our General Secretary, Rebecca Greenspan, and our main director of the DTL, the Division of Technology and Logistics, Shamika Shiriname. This is very grateful, and thanks for this opportunity. We can show what is the UNCTAD work around the world, and what is the tools for us is the best tools for the trade facilitation. And like the other speakers talking about before, what is the barriers, what is the problem about the cross the borders? Well, the only solution is the very easy tools, but the main issue is the political will. And the second slide, please. We can see what is the context, ASICUDA program, what is the international coverage, and we see in the context, the next slide, please, is about what is our main goals, okay? Our main goals is the trade facilitation, is like the systematic rationalization of the procedures, information flows, and documentation. When we're talking about documentation, right now is the all full digital documentation, no more paper, always in Asikuda program talking about the no paperless and only no paper. Our mandate is still working since the July 2016 and is the Article 38, continuing cooperation to the member state to the implementing the Asikuda custom system for the facilitation and for the custom control, immigration control, health authorities, and we will see in the next presentation about what is that. And the knowledge about the DTL is around we are the anniversary 40 years old when they start the program. That's not mean the system is very old. No, other hand, it's very new platform and working about the normal workflow about what is the custom in maritime transport operation and crossing border around the world. It's the same context about the international commerce, is the order and prepare the purchase about what is the trade between the countries, how is the Incoterms, what is the commercial operation, and this is the very important information charge preview in the system. We can work even many days before to the cargo arrive to the port, to the airport, to the border. That's mean import, export, insurance company, chamber of commerce, import and export agents, license agreement, embassies, credit checking company, other intermediaries, okay? And in the transport, the main thing, the connection between the transport and customs. Always the big problem is customs. Custom is, the stopover about the facilitation. For that reason, Asikuda is a very right tool for the facilitation, and even we can get the all documentation, digital documentation, and all procedures prepared before to the cargo arrive. In that case, in the transport, the freight forwarder is a very important figure. Transporter like liners, carrier, shipping line, inspection company, depend the countries, and forwarders and other intermediaries, for example, maybe the private services about the package and other kinds of the services inside to the warehouse or in the factory. And now customs is my area, okay? What happened with customs around the world? What happened to customs, for example, when the speakers before talking about the Africa, for example, the region, the problems about the control, the problems about the customs authorities, the big problem around the world, even in our countries, is the corruption. The problem is not the transparencies because it's not totally automation process. Maybe it's a lot paper, maybe it's a lot discretionality to the custom officers. For that reason, with the system, is the right tool to the trade facilitation because all steps in the process is electronic. And we have the traceability, the historical documents about the step-by-step, even who handled the system, who is the profile, who is the company, who is the all condition before create like we told business units, okay? That's mean custom work together very close with the health authorities, port management, custom brokers, and other intermediaries. And the other final condition depend which country. You remember the custom maybe will be and the good facilitation vehicle, but in the most of our countries is the taxes condition. For example, in Africa and some countries in Latin America, even in Asia, the taxes in customs excise taxes represent almost 40% about the whole revenue. In that case, the electronic connection with bank, financial institutions, and other intermediaries. The next one. Next slide, please. We can show what is our knowledge and experience, 40 years, okay? It's like a 4th generation. I almost founded to the program, even in the 80s. We started the process in the Latin America with Guatemala, and in other 3 countries in Africa. In this moment, we have the 150-person human resource working for a Sikuda process and project. A member state is using the last version is almost 100 countries. We can get the 90% the installation system around the world, and the many partners we will see in the next slide, please. Okay, this is the Sikuda community in this moment. Okay, you can see almost the country around the world, even in the very long distance regions, for example, Fiji, and my region, for example, the all Latin America countries and the Central America, but the all Caribbean countries use a Sikuda program, an exception to the Cuba, and the all countries get connected between his custom services, port authorities, and the others authorities in the single window I show in a couple next slides, please. The next one. This is the ongoing activities. Asikuda have right now 5 versions. The last version is Asikuda World, and the many countries is getting the process to migrate to the new platform. It's a customer-oriented statements, interconnectivity for with single window. I show you what is the concept for single window for us, because when I was young, I always talking about the single window. And I remember in the 80s and the 90s, the single window is a small window in the custom offices, and you leave all the papers, and some guys inside to the office only sign and stamp in the papers many conditions, and that called the single window. This doesn't work. Partner with the government agencies, specific systems is like an interface, and the uses right now a lot web services and security. Security, that's mean the risks about the cyber attack, the integrated of data, and the many other things about the ID of the people. We are working about the digital ID. In that case, I continue this dynamic risk management. Okay, who is who in the environment of the customer, achieving the processing, mobile application, cloud operation, and the SSA infrastructure. That's where all up. The main condition for the good trade facilitation is we can get the all overview about the custom process, port process, airport process, border process. For that reason, we have some tools like ACPM. It's like it's like a situational room, and when the public and private sector can see what are doing each one. The new interconnectivity is the new platform, is ASIHOF Maritime, and the model to the CARICOM impacts. The next one, let me show you what is the ASIHOF. ASIHOF is the interconnection about the all maritime companies, all maritime port authorities, and all user in the port activities, and what is the integration with the shipping lines and the interchange information between health services, web services, or interface with that system. That means we can prepare the whole operation before the vessel arrives, maybe 48 hours before, depend what is the legal frame in each country. In the next slide, I can show you what is the other works modules. Is, for example, ECTs is about the animal control and the protection to the environment. ASIREG is about the management with ASICUDA when the human disaster, for example, earthquakes, hurricanes, we can use the special module about we can send, for example, in the last 80 months, maybe 2 years, we are working very good with Panama and all Central America, and we send the vaccines and the other medical issues, medical suppliers, okay? ACPM is, ACPCD is the interface and the special model for the Universal Postal Union, and the performance management, according with the MOU to the WCO, is about what is the special information about how is the benchmarking with the process in each custom office in the country, and the trade data extraction for the private sector, for for the projection and maybe other things. The next one, we have the partnership. We can see many partnerships. In that case, we have the World Bank, we have the World Customs Organization, the WTO, we have International Development Bank, Inter-American Development Bank. We're working with the next one, please, UNESCO, and the other custom agency. The next one, slide, please. All right. Okay. You see, this organization is many information we can get about the whole presentation is I sent to WISTA. The next one is a big question for me, and I talk with okay, we have many other program measures and the partners and the opportunities, and my question is, why not WISTA? We can get the special agreement, we can work together, we can maybe, I don't know, a special program to the training, start to the, like other speaker talking about before, we can get a special prototype, okay? Is our idea in the small project when we have agreement with other organization, is get a training, what is the ASICUDA, how work, how is the get implemented in your countries, and we can get like a pilot, okay? Like a pilot, but before a prototype. If it's like a F1, okay, the Formula One, okay, you don't get the car to the track before you are testing everything. That's mean the special meeting, okay, the special table of work about the private and public sector, okay, and the agreement between, that is the only way with this project is working. It's not the political will. No, don't want that situation like this. Depend the country, okay? It's not the whole reality around the world. The national coverage for almost final is the control about the pre-arrival manifest with the all information in the XML files, the transit sheet declaration, like the all issues about the taxations, even internal or external taxes. Accounting is the all control with the central bank, with what is the special financing authority in each country. Transit sheet, for example, in the way of the crossing the border, like other speaker before me talking about the situation in Africa. We have the best single window declared for the WCO organizations is in the Rwanda. Rwanda is the best single window, okay, get the first award the last year, because it's the more facilitation single window in all Africa. In the next one, you can see what mean the single window in the integrated, the all user, all authorities, all organization, even private or public, okay? That is very complex, but it's very easy if we have on the root, okay, the planning. For that is my recommendation, the building a prototype, okay? Take in mind that is proposed, because in the next slide, you will see a small part what that's mean, okay? Is put online all the people, the all organization, the all companies, the all private sector is working in all issues, okay? That is very difficult right now, because maybe custom have a very good system, have a secure, but for example, the Minister of Health doesn't have nothing, working in paper. What is the big opportunity with ASICUDA? ASICUDA give the tool, become to member of the system, and the process is totally digital, okay? For example, in the ASIHOF Maritime is working in that way. The next slide, please. You can see what is the ASICUDA is a connector. You don't thinking about the ASICUDA like a only platform. Asycuda is integrator between the private system, even to the other custom system of the custom authorities ready to have, okay? That is the where we can get the core to the promotion export, control import, control transit, control financing, okay? In the next slide, you can see the global architecture, okay? It's only interchange information. It's nothing new, okay? The wheel was invented. We need reinventing the wheel, okay? It's the same process in each country around the world. In the next one is the big question I think you are expecting next to me is what is the our situation in the SDG condition. It's mandatory for us in UNTAC, including the general condition for the working in the project, okay? In that case, I mentioned I have now 2 boxes, and that is what there are women, okay? The general secretary is she is come from Costa Rica, and Shamika Suriname is from Sri Lanka, and this is mandatory. Where get the equal condition about the gender. In the next slide is I think is the last one. You can see this is the going activity. All projects also aims to the target in the electric goal number 5, gender equality, through empowerment, women within custom administration, governmental cross-border, agency, trading, community condition for women. That's mean we need to get the equal 50-50 in the all projects. And in my opinion, I work very good with the woman. Is best, yes, really, is the best, consulting, the best expert, very disciplined, is more easy, okay? It's more easy. And please, you can click in the link because that is the very important in the link of the UNTAC, okay? You can see all the programs about the trade for trade facilitation. It's not open. I get no, it's not working. Yes or no? No? Well, you can see that's mean about the training programs. We can start work together, okay? About what's mean the trade facilitation. Oh, already, okay, that's it, okay. This is the program about the port management, okay? How is the working? The next other course is e-commerce. What that means, because it's like the real blockchains is the interconnection for each user, but we need to know who is who in this whole environment, the statics and the other many other courses. In the next slide, I say very well. Thank you so much. And whatever you want, keep in touch and working together. The UNTAC is open for WISTA. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Benito Fernandez. Thank you for your elaborate explanation of the Asycuda program. I think that WISTA is very much interested in having you as UNTAC on board. And since you have partnership with others, of course, why not WISTA? And WISTA is prepared to sign an MOU with you, as you have suggested, to work on training programs. We've already mentioned that our women, our SMEs need training and capacity building. So definitely we'll be happy to have you on. Thank you so much. We have our last presenter, UNTAD, and we are much done. We now open the floor for anyone who has questions. We had our last presenter giving us an elaborate explanation of Asycuda and all its parameters. Now, I'm opening the floor for a few questions. Our time is up, actually. We meant to close at 2:30, and we passed it a few minutes, but we can spare some few minutes for questions.
Well,
I would like to ask my question first to because Mr. just finished, and ask him, with this Asikuda program, you indicated that most countries in Latin America are using it, and also the Caribbean.
Yes, the Caribbean is the more user in the region, and the Latin America, Central America, and other countries in South America. But the big user with the Asikuda around the world is Africa. Africa and Asia. For example, the biggest country in transactions with the Asikuda system is Bangladesh. Okay. They processing around to the 3,100 export declaration per day.
Wow.
Okay. And the other country, for example, Sri Lanka in Africa, the general center or the regional center is in Lusaka, Zambia. We have a very big project with Angola and with the Guinea Equatorial and Mozambique and Uganda. Even before pandemic, I had been in Kampala starting to the new project about the port community system with the airport in the Entebbe airport and Uganda and other very important countries. For example, in the Arabic countries, we have a very, very nice project, but it's not good yet, okay? Because the big country is Afghanistan. It's not possible to work there today. And the other big country is Iraq, okay? And the East Europe countries like Ukraine, like Romania, like Georgia, and the ex-Soviet republics is working with Asikuda, okay? We have agreement with the U.S. government because the system is working in Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. With the French government is working in St. Paul and Miquelon, and we're working with the Australian Customs Services about all the Pacific area, Fiji, Marshall, Samoa, Timor, many other countries. Almost 100 more countries is working with Asikuda.
Great. This is very good. And I'll throw this question to Demeter from the African Continental Free Trade. And then I want to ask her, how is, after looking at Asikuda, I don't know if all the 40 plus members who have signed on to the AFTA are using the Asikuda, and how this will work out for our businesses.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. All AFCFTA member states are not signed on to Asikuda. A great deal are. So what we are working on is actually a interoperability of systems, so that within the continent, whether you are using Asikuda or you are using any other system, what we want to achieve for the AFCFTA is the ability of these systems to speak to one another, right? So in that regard, what we want to do is to develop a software that would enable information flow between the Asikuda systems and the non-Asikuda systems within the continent. Yeah, we have a great day using Asikuda, but not every member state is using Asikuda. There are different, Ghana is using a different system, for instance, in West Africa. Senegal is using a different system. Yeah. And there had been attempts to link systems like for ECOWAS. The most recent one was the SIGMAT. It was an attempt to link. There was 5 pilot countries that they tried to link their systems within the continent. The most integrated in terms of system linkage is the East African Community, because all their systems speak to each other, right? With this circle, what we have is all the systems speaking to the South African system, but their others don't speak to each other. So at the continental level, what we really want to achieve is to have the systems, Asikuda, GCNet, whatever, speak to each other. That's what our target really is. Thank you.
Very good, because this will certainly help our SMEs. That's very good. I see Crystal's hand up. Crystal, do you want to say something? I see your hand up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crystal, yeah.
I wanted to emphasize that in the trade on the trade facilitation West Africa program, we are really working on the system interconnection, custom system interconnection with STEGMAT. And so all the ASICUDAS countries are more or less intend to be connected to each other. We already have like maybe five countries which are interconnected, maybe not to each other, but we are working really on making it. And the other initiative also is to put on board the interconnection, the countries who have not ASICUDAS, like Nigeria, Ghana, and Dakar. So Dakar will be, I mean, before the end of the year, connected to the other countries. And we also are working with Nigeria and Ghana on that purpose.
Great. I think it's good news that we can have all these systems working with each other. And the long run will be that it will be to the benefit of everyone, our SMEs in particular. Thank you. I'm happy to hear this because we are all talking about digitalization and we must see it working very well. So we'll be looking forward to TFWA after and UNCTAD putting their systems together and making it work for everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know time has gone, but is there anyone amongst us who would like to ask a question? You can also put it in the chat. Antra will let us have it. Let me see. Much time is gone. And I would have liked to ask more questions. I want to give the floor also to others to do so, and maybe what they have heard this afternoon and what they would like any further clarification. We heard a lot from the World Economic Forum. I wouldn't want to ask them, but I think that they have something going and WISTA can be a part of it in sharing that information to our members. And what Muriel told us about the network of WISTA, we have the network across the globe and we should be able to share information for our SMEs across the board. And I'm happy to say that we are ready to collaborate with each one. We are ready to collaborate with the AFTA, with the TFWA, with UNCTAD, with the Economic Commission on UN Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. We are ready to work together with the World Economic Forum. And I think this is just the beginning of it. And I'll call on Despina, if Despina is around. Despina to
I'm here.
As the president of WISTA International, I'll call on her to speak to the collaboration and partnership as we move forward with our trade committee. Despina, and also take the opportunity to close us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say a very warm thank you and our gratitude to our speakers today. We have heard interesting presentations, interesting discussions, and of course our speakers are so experienced on the different issues that we face today, especially with trade. And through the discussions, we also heard some of the topics that our trade committee will deal with in the future. So this has been very interesting for all of us, and thank you all so much. We really appreciate your time. WISTA is growing and strengthening its role, and this committee, made up of people with knowledge and experience on trade is one example of that. It also shows with the creation of this committee that WISTA is ready to engage with other organizations to I think collaboration is something that as WISTA we have exhibited through the years, and now more than ever we need to do that, especially with all the issues that we deal with and with the pandemic that we have suffered with in the last 2 years. Collaboration, sharing of experiences, sharing of practices is very important for all of us. So a big congratulations to all the contributors of today's event. Again, I cannot thank you enough personally and on behalf of WISTA International. Thank you to all attendees for staying with us for the entire event. And closing, I would like to give and send my very best wishes to our trade committee. We know that you have important work ahead. And I just want to say that we're standing next to you, supporting you, and looking forward to seeing what the Trade Committee will show through its efforts, because I know you have been working for some time now. We're very looking forward to seeing what you have in store for us. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Now you're muted.
Okay. Thank you, all of you. Paula, would you like to say something? Yeah.
I think that you already said everything, but thank you to all of you for the support. This is a teamwork. I think that we have a lot to share, learn, and contribute. We are the women who move the world. So thank you for being with us today. I want to cry. Thank you.
Please don't. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll end our webinar here, but the collaboration and cooperation and partnership still goes on. Thank you once again for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.